2, 1. Thank you for watching the John Woodard Show, ladies and gentlemen. We have the pleasure of interviewing the North Carolina chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Whatley, from his office in Raleigh. And we're glad to have an opportunity to talk to him now about where the party stands and where it's going to go and how it's going to get there. Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
We're doing great. It is a great day to be a Republican, and we hope you're having a good one too.
It is. We're having a great, it is a great time. We've had a really good success with the last election, notwithstanding the Forest race. So we've got a lot to be thankful for, but there's a lot of discord coming out of Washington, D.C. and the impeachment hearings today and a variety of other things. What do you think about where we are right now as a party, not just in North Carolina, but nationally?
Yeah, look, and it's really a tale of two parties, because when you look here in North Carolina, we had a great 2020 cycle. We managed to win majorities on 5 new county commissions, which gave us Republican control of 61 county commissions. That's the most ever. We had a great run. We added seats in the state house. We held the state senate. On the council of state, we got 6 out of 10, which is the most we've ever had, including Mark Robinson as our first Black lieutenant governor, and what a warrior that guy is. And so, we were pretty good there. And of course, on the congressional front, we had 3 contested races that we ended up doing very well with. Madison Cawthorn to replace Mark Meadows with 55%. Dan Bishop only won his special election in 2019 by 4,000 votes, and yet he got 55% this time around. And Richard Hudson, who was the #1 target in the entire country for Republican members by Nancy Pelosi, ended up with 53%. We delivered the state for Tom Tillis, who's now the 50th Republican. And you talk about the need for us to have as Senate warriors. He's going to be absolutely critical to the fights we're going to have up there. And we did deliver the state for Donald Trump. So, we look at all of those wins. Then on top of all of that, with our courts, which, is so absolutely important. We went 8 for 8. We were 5 for 5 on the Court of Appeals. We were 3 for 3 on the Supreme Court, including Chief Justice Newby, who we managed to get through a recount and win by a mere 401 votes, 4 votes for a county. So, we had a pretty good election cycle down here in North Carolina. But when you contrast that with what's going on up in Washington, although we did win our close races here, we had 2 seats that were redistricted right out from under us. We had court-ordered redistricting in 19 that wiped out the 2nd district, George Holding, and 6th district, Mark Walker. And Democrats managed to hold on to the House, which is really unfortunate. We ended up nationally winning 14 seats, every contested close race that we had, but it wasn't enough to be able to take back the House. And of course, we lost the Senate. You had super tight majorities in places like Arizona and Nevada and Michigan. We lost the 2 runoff races in Georgia. So, very tight, 50-50. And then, of course, on the presidency, despite the fact that we delivered for Donald Trump here in North Carolina, he lost narrowly in a bunch of states. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. That we've got a trifecta between the House, the Senate, and the presidency up in Washington, and that's bad. And we're going to have to deal with a lot of, a big time lurch to the left that the president has already taken, that we know that Nancy Pelosi in the House has already been banked on the far left side, and the Senate's going to be moving over there pretty shortly. So DC's not where we need it to be, and we got a lot of work going forward. So, it's really a contrast between what we've got here in the state and what we've got going on nationally. But, overall, I think we're in a good position to kind of lead the resistance to Washington. Right now, we've got a good position, a good setup here in North Carolina. Like you said, notwithstanding the governor's race, and that shows you what a $30 million spending disparity will do for you. But Governor Cooper remains one of the weakest governors in the entire country, and I'm glad that we've got a Republican House, Senate, and Republican courts to kind of surround him at this point.
Do you think Governor Cooper's going to, as a lame duck, is going to work with the legislature this time around, or is he going to be just as bullheaded as ever?
Well, we certainly hope that he will. I'm not really sure that we expect that just based on what we've seen before. I think that, he ran a pretty radical agenda last time, particularly when you look at him vetoing the Born Alive bill. You look at him vetoing a sanctuary sheriff's bill, and him not signing on to any of the budget by the legislature. And he had all those vetoes across the board with it. So he has signaled that he wants to work with the legislature. I think the best thing we can do is know that we now have a Republican majority on the Court of Appeals. We now have a Republican Supreme Court Chief Justice. And so that we're expecting we're going to have better results from the courts. And of course, we have to work towards getting those super majorities back in both the House and the Senate in 2022.
Well, the ground ought to be mighty fertile in 2 years when with all the radical agenda that's coming out of the Biden camp. He's done more to piss off more people in the shortest amount of time than any other president I can remember. And it's all on basic human issues, jobs, and spending and all these radical things. If we can't take back the House in 2022, then I don't know when we ever will, to be honest with you. And that ought to help us here in the state.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think that, when we come out of an election cycle that's as hard fought as what we just went through, and the president says, he wants unity and he wants to work across the aisle and he really wants to bring people together. That's a great opportunity, I think. But then the first thing that he does is sign 17 executive orders in his first week. He signed 42 over his first 2 weeks. And then he pushes forward with impeachment. He pushes forward with immigration reforms that are going to be terrible for the country. He's pushing forward with a $15 minimum wage. All these things that are completely divisive. And the only thing he's going to manage to unify is the Republican Party, because there is going to be a backlash. You recall when Bill Clinton won in 1992 and pushed forward with healthcare and a pretty radical agenda on taxes. That's what bred the 1994 takeover of the House. When you look at Barack Obama, won in 2008, in 2009, 2010, went as far left as anybody has ever seen. That's what created the Tea Party and brought back the Republican House and Senate in 2010, or to the Republican House in 2010. We didn't get the Senate later till 14. We're seeing that from Joe Biden right now on steroids, and he's gone even further left, farther and faster than even President Obama did. So I do think he's going to manage to be a great unifier for us.
Well, everybody was scared to death of Bernie Sanders. That's the reason why they voted for him. And what have they got? They've got Bernie Sanders in a that's a little more attractive and in a little better clothing outfit. But otherwise, they got the Bernie Sanders agenda if in full bloom.
Yeah, there's no question about it. When the president said that Kamala Harris is going to be the last person he consults on any major policy agenda before they start to implement it, that tells you exactly where they're going to go. He's going to listen to Bernie. He's going to listen to AOC. He's going to listen to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And this really does come down to the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer agenda. And it is the most radical far left agenda we've ever seen. So, there really is nothing to his calls for unity on anything that he has done.
Well, now we're into the second impeachment of the president, and we had 10 Republicans Republican House members that voted with the Democrats for this impeachment. And I'm reading that Trump is not going to start a Patriot Party as a operating third party, but to use that as leverage against some of the senators to keep them in line, and that he's got this organization, the Center for American Restoration. I was looking on their website today, and I was listening last night on TV. The head of that organization was on the Tucker Carlson show last night. And so it looks like he's going to work on getting a primary against these 10 House members and a couple of senators. But is he going to primary people that voted with him for the impeachment just because they're squishy or they're uncertain where they belong? What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, the president has made it absolutely clear. He is a Republican. He wants to be very involved and very active going forward to help drive the Republican Party towards his America First agenda. I strongly support that. I think that's absolutely the right path. The president doesn't need to go out and start a third party. He needs to continue to play a leadership role in the Republican Party, and that's really where he's feeling as a natural fit. He went down and sat down with Kevin McCarthy, or actually Kevin McCarthy went down and sat down with him at Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to work together to try and make sure that they deliver the House back to Republican hands and make Kevin McCarthy the Speaker. I know that he is very involved in talking to people about a number of the Senate races as well. You know, when you talk about 10 Republicans that voted for impeachment, that's really not a big number. I mean, we have 190 plus Republicans that are in the House, and we're a very unified party. We've already had 45 Republican senators vote to say that the impeachment trial is unconstitutional. Certainly none of those we expect are going to break away in terms of voting on impeachment. Both Senator Tillis and Senator Burr from North Carolina voted to say that this was an unconstitutional impeachment trial. So, you know, the North Carolina Republican Party is completely unified around the president. I think the National Republican Party is completely unified around his agenda, which is about America first. And when you look at the primaries that we expect that he's going to go play in, he's going to back candidates who backed him. He's going to back candidates who have backed his America First agenda. You know, the Republican Party, we're not going to go back to the Mitt Romney and John McCain agendas. We're going to continue to stay strong against China. We're going to continue to push to protect our border. We're going to have a strong national security apparatus. We're going to continue to want to have an economy that lifts everybody, not just the top percentile, the way that the Democratic tax policies would do. And everything that President Trump did, from unleashing the U.S. economy and rebuilding our military and putting America first, is exactly where we as a Republican Party need to be going forward.
Well, we've got a grand opportunity, and the president's got about 75 million club that he can utilize to influence his position. So it ought to be really good electoral opportunities for us in both the House and Senate in the next election. It's too bad that some of the senators won't be up for 6 years, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I think that we look here in North Carolina as the opportunity to be the tip of the spear. You know, we had court-ordered redistricting that got rid of 2 Republican members last year. We've got a chance to redraw those. We also are going to pick up a 3rd congressional seat opportunity because the census is going to give North Carolina a 14th district. So we've got Republicans are going to be drawing the maps into both the House and the Senate. And, you know, we know that there's going to be litigation on that. But we do think we're in a great position to help take over a couple of the seats. And Republicans only need 6 margin to be able to put Nancy Pelosi back out to pasture. And then on the Senate side, North Carolina holding Richard Burr's seat. Richard's not going to be running again, but being able to hold that seat is going to be paramount for our hopes to retake the Senate. So we really are going to be a focal point in being able to take back those majorities in both House and Senate.
Do you have any projections on who you think the top contender is for Burr's seat?
Well, I'll say this: it's going to take a dance card to keep everybody straight. You know, we've already got 3 Democrats who have said that they're going to be running. We've got Mark Walker, who's a congressman from the Greensboro area, is already in. We've got a number of other folks that are taking a look at it. Of course, everybody on the Republican side is going to wait to see what Laura Trump wants to do. There's been a lot of interest in her potentially moving down and doing that. And if she does, I think there's a lot of immediate interest right away. And if not, we've got a really strong bench in the North Carolina Republican Party. And I know that whoever comes out of that primary, we're going to be, as a state party, in a position to help them both financially and with the grassroots army that we're going to need to be able to get them across the line.
Where do we go from here, Chairman? How are we going to broaden the Republican tent in North Carolina and nationally? I saw this one gentleman on TV one day. He was a Hispanic. He had come over to this country with his parents, and they were talking about how much the American dream has meant to their family. And I also found that I guess I wasn't surprised that Hispanic voters represent the largest voting bloc that there is out there right now. What can we do to pull those people in?
You know, that is a great question, John. It really is. And I think it goes to the heart of kind of where we want to go over the next several years. When we look at the North Carolina party, the reason that we won all of those races back in 2020 last year, we won 15 out of 19 statewide races. We managed to add seats to our Republican House, and we managed to hold on to the Senate. And the reason that we did that is because of our grassroots. We had 10,000 plus volunteers here in North Carolina. We made 10 million voter contacts. We knocked on over 3 million doors despite the pandemic. And that's why we won all of those races. And if you look at the margins we had, every one of the court races except for Paul Newby's was 51-49, and his was by 401 votes. On the Council of State, we had several of them that were 51-49 seats. So we won close races, but we did that because the grassroots was so strong. We actually had 81.68% Republican turnout. So almost 82% Republican turnout in those election cycles, but the races were still close. President Trump only won by 73,000 votes. Tom Tillis only won by 95,000 votes. And of course, Paul won by 401 votes. So we need to expand those majorities, and we need to continue to make sure that Republicans are going to get our folks out there. What Donald Trump did that was so amazing over the course of the last 5 years is he brought new people to the party. He expanded Republican registration in a big way. We ended up with 175,000 voter advantage registration-wise over the Democrats between 2016 and 2020 because they lost 175,000 registered Democrats. We gained 100,000 registered Republicans. And that's because what Donald Trump brought to the table. We also had huge crossovers from the unaffiliated, again, because of the excitement that Donald Trump brought to the table. We generated 2.758 million voters for the president, and we managed as a party through our mail programs, our phone programs, and all of our grassroots efforts to minimize the fall off on the ballot. In fact, we had less than 4% fall off between the president and our Chief Justice race, which is an unheard of margin there. So we were able to ride the Trump wave. And as we look at going forward, we need to do a lot of things. We need to make sure that we continue to register new voters. We have to adopt the president's agenda, keep that as the America First agenda because it's so popular here in North Carolina. We also have to hope that President Biden and the Democrats, their overreach on the left and their lurch to the left are going to animate those unaffiliated voters and make sure that they stay in the Republican camps. And then as a party, we've got a lot of work to do ourselves just to make sure that we're in a position with our platform, the plan of organization, structurally, you know, we're not really designed for a pandemic era. So we're going to be going to our convention in June in Greenville and working to make sure that as a party, our structural mechanisms are all in place for us to be able to take care of it. But when you think about the strength of the Republican Party is not an office building in Raleigh. We've got 100 strong county parties We've got 100-strong chairman. We have tens of thousands of volunteers all across the state, and we've got to communicate with them. We've got to make sure that they stay engaged, and we've got to make sure that we're doing the voter registration that we need to capture all of the new people moving into North Carolina and get them on the right side of the aisle.
Well, there's back to the Hispanic issue there. This saw something that the county chairman ought to be boring down on in every county in this state to get the Hispanics registered to vote. It's absolutely essential. Donald Trump brought all these people in from the outside and built the base of the party, but that was really that was not appreciated by the Washington media, and it certainly wasn't appreciated by a lot of members of Congress who felt that he was steamrolling them and overlooking the traditional base of the party. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that going after the Hispanic population makes all the sense in the world. In fact, Donald Trump's margin within the Hispanic vote increased from 2016 to 2020 because of the policies that he put in place. The Hispanic community, they work, they want jobs, they don't want handouts. They are pro-life, they are very pro-family. And the Hispanics that are here in the United States legally want a strong immigration platform. They want to protect our borders. They're naturally going to gravitate to the Republican Party agenda. We just need to make sure that we have the engagement in those communities. I always talk about the distinction between outreach and engagement as a Republican Party. Outreach is where you go to them just before an election and say, hey, will you vote for us? Engagement is where you bring them into the party, you make them a part of the party, and you teach them about our agenda and where we're going forward with it. And that's something that we take very seriously. Could not agree more with you about the role that the county parties need to play in that. Our county parties are so important because they're really where the rubber hits the road. They're the direct contact with the voters. They're the direct contact with the volunteers. They know the voice that we need to be talking to people with. And we have great opportunities here in North Carolina to be able to reach out to the Hispanic community, but also to the Black community, to the Asian American community, and make sure that we're talking to those folks about this America First agenda, which they generally buy into, because that's where we need to be for them to succeed, for them, their families, and their communities.
There's a natural allegiance between the Republican Party mainstream and especially the Hispanic community. They're pro-business, anti-abortion, and they're right in line with most of the things that Republican Party agrees with. So we ought to be able to make some hay with registering those legal voters for the next election, and so we can make sure to take it back and really drive that message to the Democrats that this liberal agenda is not going to work in the United States. I just hope that we don't end up being handed over to China before we can get it done.
Yeah, and I think one of the critical things that we look at here in 2021, knowing that we'll have some local elections, but really the focus of the state party is going to be on 22, is making sure that we're building those inroads. We're not just taking a year off and hanging out. We need to be working. We need to be engaged with our county parties. We need to be engaged with the voter registration efforts here and now. Like you said, making hay is absolutely a great analogy for it. And we're starting our process. We've got precinct meetings going on here in February. All 100 counties are going to have their conventions in March. We'll have our district conventions in April, and then of course our state convention in June. And I'm just excited about the opportunities we have to really highlight, what we accomplished in 2020 here at the state level, but also to talk about the challenges that we have. Joe Biden and his agenda are really going to be really bad for the country. His tax policies, his immigration policies, his energy policies, are going to eliminate tens of thousands of jobs all across the country. we need here in North Carolina to work with our legislature, work with the Republicans that we have in office to hold the line, make sure that we keep our economy strong and be able to recruit and train all those volunteers that we're going to need next year.
And how are we going to reform the election process to make sure that the last election doesn't become the battleground for the next election?
You know, that's a really important point. And I think one of the things that we did in North Carolina last year was so important. We call it election day operations, but it's really protect the vote operations. And what we did across the state over 2 years was recruit and train over 570 attorneys, over 3,000 observers that we had in every vote counting session, every canvass session. We had them in every hearing for the recounts in all 100 counties. And we did not ever have a session where a vote was being counted that there were not Republican observers and attorneys present, which really kept the election counting clean here in North Carolina. Now, we did have a lot of problems with the State Board of Elections. In fact, we sued them 4 times. We actually took them up to the Supreme Court on one case, and we're back and forth a lot with their settlement, which they did with Democratic plaintiffs that Josh Stein and Governor Cooper's councils were part of. We can't have that happen again. So I'm very happy that we do have more Republicans on the courts. We have Justice Newby as the Chief Justice there, and we hope that the courts are going to be a better check on the Board of Elections. But what we need is the state legislature to continue to work to strengthen our voter integrity and our ballot protection measures that we have here. Unfortunately, the Fourth Circuit, a federal court of appeals, reinstated our voter ID law. They did it on November 20th, so it didn't help us last election, but it's going to help us going forward on this next election. And we're going to be very, very vigilant. We're one of the first state parties that has created a chief counsel position, who's going to be Philip Thomas on our staff, who's going to be engaged with the courts, with the boards of elections, and making sure that we're going to have our elections protected.
Let's talk about you for a minute. You going to run for re-election?
That's the plan. So right now we're in the process of talking to folks all across the state and making sure that we're getting out to all 100 counties. I think right now that we've got the state party is in fantastic shape, but look for an announcement in March. And I think that right now we feel that the party's in a great position, in great shape, and we want to keep this going.
Well, buddy, I tell you what, you did a great job delivering this election for the Republican Party, and you worked real hard at it. I know I was trying to get a hold of you week after week after week, and I couldn't do it. And I knew you were out there working hard at it. I see you at some events, but you know, you were putting your time where it counts, not with talking with somebody like me. So I'm glad that you did that, and I wish you a lot of luck in the next time.
Yeah, you know, and look, we had I think we've been out to about 85 counties at this point in time. I really want to make sure that we get to the last 15. But you know, North Carolina is so big. You know, I always joke about it having 100 counties in 3 different time zones. But you know, it really is an effort to try and get out there and do as many events as you can and really see the strength and the vibrancy of this party. I'm so excited when I get a chance to go out. Like tonight, I'm going to be going down to the Onslow County Republican Women's Club, have dinner with them and be able to talk to them kind of about where we are as a party. But, you know, in making it up to Currituck County, over to Cherokee County and Watauga County, where I grew up, you know, it really is amazing to see how the Republican Party unifies and how we really support this agenda of being able to allow everyone to move up there. And I love this party. I got to say, I'm so excited. The last, you know, year and a half of being in the chair has really been a great time for me to get to meet and talk to so many people and get to do, you know, opportunities like this, you know, to talk to you and all of your viewers with it. So we're excited. We got the TV studio here built, and we're going to be expanding it over the course of the next couple of months and make sure that we can bring more candidates in and more officials in to be able to communicate with their folks all across the state. But I got to tell you, that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is just letting everybody know what all's going on when you have this much excitement and this much activity across the state.
And I guess your wife is gonna be resigned to not see you as much as she would like, and not with all these trips you're making.
Well, I tell you, she's been an absolute trooper through this. She's a saint. You know, we've got twin boys that are 17. My daughter's 14. So I really relish the opportunities that I get to stay at home, you know, and to be able to travel around the state. Fortunately, about 85% of the state's population is within 2.5 hours of Gaston County. So I can get to a lot of places and still get back home and see the kids. And as they're going through, you know, high school is a time where you want to definitely be around as much as you can. But yeah, no, they've been pretty patient with me and put up with a lot.
Last question. I obtained a letter that Adam Schiff wrote to the big tech companies, and I forwarded it to your executive director, because I assumed that because he was in the office more than you were, that it would be more likely that he would see it and he could share it with you. Did he do that?
He did, you know, and I have to say, I'm glad you sent that over there. And when you talk about Adam Schiff, you talk about the liberal Democrats in Washington and the collusion that they have with big tech, and really what that means in terms of shutting down communications, shutting down platforms. I mean, the fact that Twitter, you know, took the president offline is really offensive to a lot of Republicans. When you set these up as free speech platforms and then you eliminate half of the speech that's on there, it's the half that you don't agree with ideologically, really, I think is dangerous for our society as a whole.
It's very dangerous, because what, you know, it's like the camel's nose. It's this one time, and it's then it's that some other time. And I mean, this whole thing started out with the COVID-19, but once you open that Pandora's box, then it's the first thing you know, they're delisting the president of the United States, and you don't know where it's going to go from there. They just delisted Senator Ron Johnson and his committee just the other day.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing to me that these guys are taking the steps that they've been taking, and going down the path that they've been going down. And I assume, you know, fairly soon we're going to start to see a lot more litigation. I know Ron Johnson. I know him well. He's a patriot and a very, very strong senator from Wisconsin, his good friend. You know, and we don't need the big tech guys to censor an entire committee. To censor the official platforms of the United States government because they don't like what they're saying. This is really a violation of everything that we stand for in terms of our First Amendment protections. And I will say this, that if the president were to get an invitation from Twitter to go back up, I'm not sure that he would want to take it. I'm not sure that he should take it, because all they're going to say is, as long as you say what we say is okay, we won't take you back off again. We need to come up with other platforms. We need to come up with other vehicles for communications to make sure that the conservative voice, the conservative community is able to communicate with itself. And we also need a hard look at Section 230. The president was absolutely right to say that if these companies are going to be censoring the conservative voices the way that they do, then they really should not be able to take advantage of what that section gives them in 230. So we need to have a national conversation on censorship and free speech, which is obviously a lot harder when you can't get out there on Twitter or Facebook or these other platforms.
Absolutely. You may not know that when I talked to you a few months ago, it was the John Woodard Show, and it still is. But the John Woodard Show has become a subsidiary of Real American News. It's a limited liability corporation, and we're doing, other than podcasts, we have guest podcasters. We're doing print medium that we're putting on our website, and we're branching out to provide a complete ground to ceiling online conservative news service. I sent information about this to a number of district chairs, and I'm really surprised that they haven't acted on it to provide that information to their members. If you could, if you could put a little emphasis behind that, it might help us an awful lot.
We'll do it, and I tell you, we have all across the state so many people, so many conservatives who want to communicate with each other. We've got an amazing network, really, that we've built across it. And as a Republican Party chair, I can tell you this: we talk to people, as you mentioned earlier, all day, every day. We think that we're communicating with people as well as any state party in the country. And yet, every time I go anywhere, people are like, "Oh, we want to hear more from you." So it really is a challenge for you to be able to get those messages out there. And we need vehicles like you and your podcast. And we've got, friends who have radio stations out west and across the east. And we've got, platforms that are on social media and just even frankly texting and tweeting and emailing. So we're going to have to work doubly hard over the course of the next couple of years to survive the onslaught that we're seeing. But there has to be a legal pushback against, Twitter and against Facebook and against these other platforms that want to censor half of the political dialogue in the country because they don't agree with it. And we've got to be able to get that back where it was.
If there's a legal right to sue them for whatever breach of responsibility they have, they will get in line. But as long as they can hide behind the Section 230 and claim immunities and deflect, they'll do it as long as we let them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, John. And I have to say that one of the things that excites me the most as I talk to people across the state is we're going to keep fighting. I don't think that there's anybody who thinks that President Trump is going to go back to Mar-a-Lago and put his tail between his legs and kind of recede from politics. And I know that we here at the North Carolina Republican Party, we took our lumps in the governor's race last year, and we're not happy with what happened up in Washington. But that really just emboldens us. We're going to fight harder. We saw a lot of success. We managed to drive out 2.75 million voters, which is the most Republican voters ever in the history of the state. We're going to go register more. We're going to talk to more people. And we're going to be able to make sure in 2022 that we are the tip of the spear in retaking the House and retaking the Senate. And then I think we can have more of a conversation on things like 230. We can return to a responsible border protection plan. We can make sure that the tax code is going to benefit all Americans, not just the wealthy, and all of the agenda items that we have on the right that the vast majority of North Carolinians agree with. Is where we need to be as a party. And I love that that's embodied with, a North Carolina first, America first agenda. And I really appreciate you and your podcast for making sure that you've got a platform for people to talk about it. Appreciate the chance for me to come on and talk to you and your viewers.
Mr. Chairman, this has been a wonderful discussion. I've enjoyed it very much, and I look forward to seeing you again on the road somewhere. Thank you very much for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Whatley, giving us an outline of where we are and where we're going. I hope you learned something by it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.